reaction, responding. Ever been in a situation where you've reacted to something and then later you sat there and went, that wasn't my finest hour? I'm sure you have. I think we all have. I think that anybody that says they haven't probably isn't really being honest and truthful with themselves. And imagine that happening in a situation where millions, if not billions, of people get to hear about it, and then looking back afterwards and really thinking that wasn't my proudest moment. But having so many people have a huge opinion about that thing. Should we talk a little bit about why these things happen and why we flip in these moments? Because it can be the tiniest little thing that triggers something. And as much as we want to be in control and as much as we don't want to show up in a certain way, when that thing is triggered, and if it's something that's really deep rooted, if it's something that's really embedded into you and has been for a really long time, then the chances are that trigger could explode in a way that you didn't anticipate. And a side of you comes out that you didn't intend to happen. But in the moment, when you are in that moment, when all of that emotion is bubbling inside of you and is rising up inside of you, and usually when situations like this happen, there's quite a lot of anger inside of there, you react. We see this every single day on social media. On social media, we see reactions from people seeking acceptance of the way that they behaved, or people seeking reassurance that it was okay. And the fact of the matter is, it is okay. It's not okay to go and hurt other people, but what is okay for you to actually let that out. Because when you don't let it out, then who knows what could happen. I tell you the part of it that's not okay. The part of it that's not okay is letting it come out and then not actually dealing with what triggered it, what caused you to be that person in that moment. When I say all of this, I say it from such a place of power, because in my Gene Keys charts, my biggest shadow to overcome is the shadow of reaction. Because within me, in my DNA, I am a born reactor. And one of the things that I've done over the last few years is I've really started honing the art of contemplation and responding to situations rather than reacting. The thing is, it's taken a lot of power to do that. And I think what's always really interesting about these situations is people having opinions on them when they've never actually managed to master this art themselves. I went through a period in my life where I never ever lost my temper. I can't say that's the fact now, and that's me being really raw and authentic and honest with you. I do lose my temper now, and it's something I'm working on again, but I went through a period in my life where I never ever lost my temper. And then I was called out by people that couldn't do that hadn't got that kind of control, and told about myself and about the flaws in my personality. Yet when I put it back to them that actually one of the things that I'd managed to master was this particular thing of really keeping my cool, they were very critical of that. And like I said to them, well, tell me, how do you know from experience? Because you've never managed to master that art. And so we've seen a beautiful example of how it's really easy to have an opinion and to cast an opinion about somebody when, what are you basing that opinion on? I always say that it's really key to have walked in somebody's shoes. And I'm very much, when you have walked in my shoes and when you've lived what I've lived and experienced what I have, then you get to have an opinion on it. But we've seen a myriad of opinions and then completely missed other things that were really important because of being so engrossed in the negative. Are you always engrossed in the negative? Are you always engrossed in the actual situation? Or do you look at what's behind that situation? Because when you look at what's behind it, it paints a completely different picture. Let me give you a prime example of humans focusing on the negative. The other day I shared a post on my Facebook page, and it was a post about a class that Einstein had been teaching, allegedly. Whether this happened, I don't know, but it was a great analogy. And Einstein was writing out a times table, so I think it was the 9 times tables, and by the time he got to 12 times 9, he got the answer wrong. And everybody in the class kind of laughed and, you got that wrong. You're supposed to be Einstein. How did you get it wrong? What they didn't focus on was the other 11 sums that he'd got right. So let me ask you, is that you? Are you that person? Are you the person that is focusing on all of the negative things? Are you the person that highlights when somebody cocked up? Are you somebody that makes a big deal out of the fact that they failed? Let me tell you something. Failure is a part of life, and it's an absolute must in life. And the quicker that you embrace that, actually, the better human you're going to be. We live in this world that historically has been full of judgment and full of ego and full of opinions. And that era is now gone. And this is another reason why this has been highlighted now, because it's about people speaking out and saying, you can focus on the negative of that situation, or you can actually look at the bigger picture of what's really going on there. There's a great book by a guy called Gay Hendricks called The Big Leap. And one of the questions that he asks in that book is, what's really going on here? Because whenever any situation is playing out, it's what's really going on. And as was said in a statement, I'm still learning. And actually, if we all embraced each other as learning beings and as people that are not perfect, because perfection doesn't exist, what a different world we'd live in, hey? Take some time to contemplate this. See where it hits you. If it's hitting you somewhere in your body, then go to that place and work on what it is saying about you. Because learning to respond rather than react is a real art. Can you do it?